It was a cold and quiet night in Chicago. Snow was falling slowly, and the streets looked like something out of a horror movie. Neil, a part-time Uber driver, was working late like he usually did on nights like this. Less traffic, higher fares. But something felt different tonight. The air had a strange stillness to it, like the world was holding its breath under some invisible fear. Neil had the radio on, but every now and then, strange static noises would cut through, almost like someone was whispering just beyond the station. Then a new ride request popped up on his phone. Pickup location, Milton Avenue. Neil flinched when he saw the name. That area was full of old mills and abandoned warehouses. Even during the day, it was deserted. At night, it felt like darkness had its own smell. But the fare showed an $18 surge for a short distance, hard to pass up. Without thinking much, Neil accepted the ride and turned his car toward Milton Avenue. On the way, his phone started glitching, screen going blurry, freezing. He brushed it off as a network issue. Arriving at Milton Avenue felt like stepping into another time. The streetlights flickered, and there was no sign of life anywhere. He slowed down and stopped near an old pillar. The only marks on the thin layer of snow were from his tires, no footprints. Then, out of the dark, a figure moved. A woman stepped forward, long white coat, wet hair, head down. She walked slowly, like gravity was heavier for her. Without saying a word, she got in the back seat. Neil asked, "Destination?" She replied in a soft, distant voice, "Take me home." Her voice sounded like it came from an old recording. Or maybe from far away. Neil glanced in the rearview mirror. Her face was unclear, just shadows and fog. As he started driving, a chill ran through the car, like a window had been left open, but they were all shut. The woman kept staring out the window, never looking at Neil. And every time he checked the mirror, her face didn't move, only her eyes seemed to shift. Sometimes, it felt like she wasn't even sitting there at all. Minutes passed, and Neil noticed his phone had lost signal. The Uber app was rerouting him through weird back alleys and rundown buildings. Then, the radio turned off before switched on by itself. An old song started playing, "I'll Be Watching You." The melody was slow, but every word felt whispered right into his ear. He turned the radio off, but it came back on again. The woman began mumbling. He couldn't understand what she was saying, but it sounded like her voice was echoing from a deep well. Neil took a turn, and suddenly, a cold voice from the back said, "Wrong way." His heart jumped. He looked in the mirror. She was staring straight at him. Her face still, like she hadn't spoken at all. The GPS led him to a dead-end street. No houses, no lights. Just a burned-down, abandoned warehouse with blackened walls and open doors. Neil stopped the car and said quietly, "We're here." But there was no response from the back seat. He looked in the mirror. The seat was empty. Neil's hands started shaking. He grabbed his flashlight and turned around to check. The woman was gone, but the seat was wet, like a cold body had just been sitting there. A few strands of long broken hair were left behind along with a crumpled, old photo. Neil looked closely. There she was in the photo, standing in front of a house. On the door behind her it read, "In loving memory, Isabella Crane, died in 1997. Neil froze. Everything around him blurred. The woman he thought was in his car. Maybe she never existed. Or maybe she did, just not anymore. He sat there, trembling in the driver's seat, breathing heavy, not from the cold, but from the creeping realization that this wasn't a dream. The damp seat, the scattered hair, the old photo. None of it made sense. He kept asking himself, am I just exhausted? Was this a hallucination? But that photo, that woman, it was her. He slowly picked up the photo and put it in his pocket like he was hiding evidence. His heart raced, but his mind was stuck on one question. Who was she? He pulled out his phone and searched the warehouse address on Milton Avenue. Within minutes, an old newspaper article popped up back in 1997. A woman named Isabella Crane went missing from that exact spot. Her burned body was found days later inside the same warehouse. The photo matched. The face matched. Neil's fingers went cold on the screen. It was real. He scrolled further and found Reddit threads others had seen Isabella too. People claimed she'd gotten into their Ubers, walked along the road, or appeared in their rearview mirrors. All described the same thing: white coat, head down, mumbling something strange. Neil called the police with trembling hands and told them everything. The dispatcher paused, then said in a flat voice, "Sir, you're not the first one to report this. We've had 5 Isabella sightings this year alone." The blood drained from Neil's face. He didn't know how to handle the fear. The next morning, he opened his Uber app, but there was no record of the ride. No pickup, no location, no passenger name. Like it had been erased. But when he checked his photo gallery, there was a picture. He never remembered taking a blurry image of a woman's silhouette in the back seat. Her face wasn't clear, but the white coat, the bowed head, it was her. Neil went numb. Everything around him started to feel off. Empty seats, mirror, reflections, static on the radio, like something was always watching. He started seeing a therapist. When he shared the story, the therapist said, "This could be trauma, or maybe something else. Some things just don't have explanations." Weeks passed. Neil stopped driving at night, but Isabella stayed with him. One evening he pulled out the photo again and noticed something he hadn't before. Standing next to her in the picture was a child who looked exactly like him. His heart skipped a beat. Was Isabella his mother? Or was there some deeper connection he didn't understand? That night, while cleaning his car, he felt a sudden chill in the back seat, like someone was there. No movement, just a deep cold shiver down his spine. Then, the radio turned on by itself, playing that same old song, "Every Breath You Take." Each word seemed to echo in his chest. He quickly shut it off, struggling to breathe. The next morning, his phone vibrated. Without a call or message. When he checked it, the Uber app had opened on its own with a new ride request. Pickup location Milton Avenue. No alert, no ping. Just there, waiting. Neil stared at the screen for a long time, lost in the memory of that night. Then he took a deep breath and started the car. Snow was falling again, just like before. The streets were just as empty. Was he finally searching for answers? Or was an unfinished story pulling him back? No one knows. But somewhere under the snow-covered streets of Milton Avenue, something still breathes. It was Friday night around 12:45 a.m. in Dallas. The streets were quiet and cold. I'm Sarah, sitting alone in my room with the TV playing some boring show. But my mind was somewhere else, on my best friend Ashley, who was heading home from the club in an Uber. We had a rule. Whenever one of us went out alone, we shared our live location, just to stay safe. That night, Ashley turned on her location. As usual, right after booking the ride. When I opened the app, I saw the car moving, the driver's name, and the model, a black Toyota Prius. Driver's name Leon, ETA, 8 minutes. Everything looked normal. And I felt a little relieved. At first, everything seemed fine. Ashley's Uber was following the right route straight through Riverbend Road, heading toward the residential area. But about 5 minutes in, something felt off. I noticed the car was circling the same block, same street, same turns, over and over. At first, I thought maybe the driver was lost or couldn't find the right address. But when it happened for the 3rd time, I got this strange feeling in my gut. The car would stop for 15 seconds, move again, then stop like someone was deliberately stalling. I panicked and called Ashley. The first call rang twice, then disconnected. The second time, I got a busy tone. That's when the fear really kicked in. I quickly texted her, "You okay?" She saw it. For a second, I felt relief. Then I saw the typing bubble. I waited, holding my breath, but nothing ever came. The typing disappeared. No message. That's when I knew something was wrong. I ran straight to my brother's room and told him everything. Just then, my phone vibrated again, but this time, the Uber app suddenly closed on its own. When I tried to log back in, it showed me logged out, and the trip history. Completely empty. It felt like Ashley's ride never happened. A chill ran down my spine. I tried logging in again, entered the password, used Face ID, but still no data. I called her again. Now the phone was completely off. Without saying a word, my brother grabbed his jacket and said, "Let's go tell the police." We called 911 and gave them the last known location from the tracking Riverbend Industrial Road, a deserted zone outside the city filled with old warehouses and abandoned buildings. The dispatcher said a unit was on the way and to report anything else unusual. We stared at my phone, but the app stayed frozen, just a blank black screen, like someone had wiped everything. About 20 minutes later, the police called back. They had found a black Toyota Prius, same license plate, same model. The car was parked on the side of the road, engine still running, headlights on, but no one was inside. My body went numb. The officer said all the doors were unlocked. The driver's seat and both back seats were empty. But one thing was left behind: Ashley's phone, sitting on the front passenger seat, still on. The battery was low, but the Uber app was open. And it said, "Driver is waiting." The phone slipped from my hands. My vision went black for a second. If the driver was still waiting, then for who? And where was Ashley? She hadn't left the car. Her phone was inside. The car wasn't locked, but she was just gone. Like, she vanished into thin air. The car was towed and sent for forensic testing, but there were no leads. And Uber? They had no record of the ride, like it had never been booked. Everything erased, as if it was planned. That driver Leon, his account was no longer active. And when police asked Uber for his info, they were told no such driver currently worked for them. Since that night, I haven't slept peacefully. Every night at exactly 12:45, my phone vibrates and the Uber app opens on its own. No ride request, no alert. Just a black screen with one red line at the bottom. Driver is waiting. The next morning, even the sunlight in Dallas felt eerie, like it was afraid to touch the ground. I hadn't slept all night, and now my eyes weren't tired, they were full of questions. The police called me again. They told me that the black Prius belonged to a former Uber driver who went missing 3 months ago. His case still unsolved. His last GPS location? Same place, Riverbend Industrial Road. That place wasn't just a warehouse anymore. It had become a graveyard of secrets, of people who were never found. A few hours later, the police returned Ashley's phone. It was off, but when I powered it on, a file notification popped up: photos, some voice memos, and one screenshot at the top. A screenshot of the Uber trip. The driver's profile photo was there, but the face was blurry, like someone had deliberately added static. The name? Just one word: unknown. My fingers trembled as I hit play on the voice memo. Through the static, I heard a faint, panicked scream, probably Ashley's. Then a deep male voice, calm but firm, said, "Stop looking back. Just keep your head down." Then came the loud sound of a door slamming shut, and the recording ended. After hearing that, Sarah knew something truly terrifying had happened that night, and maybe Ashley had tried to record her final moments. Shaken, Sarah opened Ashley's Instagram and started scrolling through her last stories. In the final video, Ashley looked a little tired, sitting in the back of a car. But in the reflection of the back window, there was something that didn't look human. A twisted face, sunken eyes, and for a second, it seemed like the thing was looking straight through the screen, directly into Sarah's eyes. police began a deeper investigation into the warehouse. They found more tire tracks from other vehicles, broken Uber logos, and a rusted phone mount from a dashboard. In one corner, they discovered torn ID cards, some from Uber drivers, some from riders. But the most chilling thing was a single line written in charcoal on the warehouse wall. She was the fifth. Sarah felt like someone had gripped her throat. The fifth? That meant 4 before Ashley. Had they all vanished the same way? Was Ashley just another number on a growing list? A week passed. No trace of Ashley. The investigation started to slow down, and the media moved on, calling it just another unusual case. But Sarah was no longer the same. She began doubting everything, every car, every driver, every late-night ping on her phone. Then one day, she had to go out for something important. She didn't have a ride, and reluctantly, she opened the Uber app. The car arrived, a white Toyota Corolla. The driver stood outside smiling, looked perfectly normal and friendly. But when she looked at the app again, the driver's name was listed as unknown. Her heart started racing. She told herself it could be a glitch, or maybe she was just too scared. She got in the car. The driver said nothing, just started driving. But the moment GPS kicked in, Sarah saw the route. It was taking her toward the warehouse. Her hands began to shake. She asked, "Why are you taking this route?" The driver looked at her in the rearview mirror and just smiled. That strange, knowing smile, like he was aware she had no way out. The car kept going, and Sarah's heart kept pounding. And then, everything went black. The next morning, Sarah's brother woke up and knocked on her door. No answer. He checked his phone and saw a notification. Sarah's ride has ended. Please rate your experience. He opened the app. Trip history, empty. His screen felt cold in his hand. Sarah was gone, and there was nothing left of her. Just a blank app, a hollow notification, and a fear that now hides in every Uber ride, waiting for its next passenger. That night in Los Angeles felt longer than usual. I'm Jeremy, and this was one of those rare nights where you let yourself go. No worries, no stress. I had gone out clubbing with some friends. Between the music, drinks, and chaos, the night flew by. But when I stepped outside, a little tipsy, I realized it was time to head home. It was late, around 1:30 a.m., and even with the city lights, there was a strange emptiness in the air. I opened the Uber app. My ride was 3 minutes away. White Toyota Camry. Driver's name, Alan. Everything looked normal, so I waited on the sidewalk. Just then, a black car pulled up in front of me. It looked exactly like the photo in the app. Headlights on. The driver didn't wave, didn't say anything. The car just slowly rolled up and stopped in front of me. I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was the drinks or just the exhaustion, and I climbed right into the back seat. The moment I shut the door behind me, something just didn't feel right. There was this weird smell inside the car, like old chemicals or rotting wood. The seats weren't filthy, but something felt off, like no one had used this car in a while, or like it was hiding something. The driver didn't say a word, just started driving in silence. I stayed quiet for a few seconds, then quickly pulled out my phone and checked the Uber app. But it still said, "Waiting for your driver to arrive." My breath slowed down. A creeping anxiety started rising in my chest, but I told myself maybe it was just a slow signal or a glitch. Still, something didn't sit right. I looked at the driver and asked, "You're here for Jeremy, right?" He paused for a few seconds, like he had to think about his answer. Then, in the coldest, flattest voice, he said, "Yeah, I know who you are." The way he said it hit me hard. It wasn't how normal Uber drivers talk. Now the car was heading down a road that definitely wasn't toward my place. I asked again, more firmly, "Hey, where are we going?" This time he smiled just slightly and replied, "Shortcut." But this wasn't a shortcut. It was leading away from the city into an old industrial zone. where not even stray dogs show up at night. The streets grew darker. Broken warehouses, sagging power lines, flickering streetlights. It felt like a graveyard built from concrete and silence. Panic spread through my body. I grabbed my phone. No signal. No calls were going through. I tried opening the door locked. I yanked on the handle with all my strength. Nothing. I pushed hard on the window. It didn't budge. The driver was still silent. I could see his face in the rearview mirror, but his eyes weren't looking at me. They were focused somewhere else. The car rolled up to a dark, abandoned warehouse and slowly drove inside. It was pitch black, the only light coming from the headlights reflecting off dusty walls. The car kept creeping forward like it knew exactly where to go. Then it stopped. The driver stepped out without a word. His walk was strange, not fast, not slow, just steady, like he knew what came next. He reached for the back door, and then I heard breathing. Cold, heavy, and terrifyingly close. My eyes widened. My whole body froze. I tried to turn my head, but it felt impossible to move. That breathing. It wasn't his. It was someone else. Someone who had been sitting behind me the whole time. That deep, raspy sound sliced right through me. Without looking back, I shoved at the door with everything I had, and when it finally swung open, I ran. I ran straight into the darkness of the warehouse, not because I thought I'd escape, but because I just wanted to get away from whatever had been behind me. But the warehouse was even bigger and colder inside. The silence echoed through the steel walls. Hanging lights above swayed, and every now and then I'd hear metal shifting, like something slowly dragging across the floor. Something fell, something scraped, but no one was there. I was sweating, panting, turning at every shadow like it was chasing me. Then, in a far corner, I found other cars, abandoned Uber vehicles. 3 of them, covered in dust, lifeless, like they hadn't moved in years. In the first one, a half-open women's purse. Inside, a cracked phone and a broken lipstick. In the second, torn ID cards. One name had faded, but a girl's smiling face still peeked out from a bent, rotting plastic card. And the third car chilled me to my core. Drawings. Children's drawings. One showed a stick figure holding something sharp, maybe a knife. Below it, scrawled in a child's handwriting, "Mommy never came home." The ground seemed to disappear under me. This wasn't some random crime. It was a pattern. A method. They hunted people late at night, outside clubs, when they were too drunk to notice the difference between real and fake. They used fake Ubers, and then they vanished. On the wall, written in what looked like coal, or maybe blood, were the words, "It's easier when they're drunk." That line wouldn't leave my head. Then I heard it, a soft shuffling sound. Someone was close. I turned. The same driver. But now he wore a plain white, expressionless mask. In his hand something sharp, maybe a blade, maybe worse. He walked slowly, no rush, like the hunt was over and the final moment had arrived. And under his breath, I heard him whisper, "No one misses the quiet ones." Each word slower, each step closer, and the fear, unbearable. Jeremy knew then he had to get out, no matter what. He ran toward the back door of the warehouse, slammed his shoulder into a rusted metal panel. At first, it didn't even budge, but with one hard push, it creaked open with a scream of steel. The night air hit him like salvation. He ran, desperate, from darkness into the cold, deserted street. In the distance, a truck was approaching. Jeremy waved both arms, screamed, ran into the road. The truck stopped. A middle-aged man jumped out, saw the state Jeremy was in, and without asking a single question, pulled him into the cab. The police were called, and about an hour later, they reached the warehouse, but it was like nothing had ever happened. Empty, no cars, no evidence, no writing on the walls. The surveillance cameras were either smashed or had missing footage. Not a single thing proved anything had gone wrong. Even the driver's license plate didn't match any record, as if the car never officially existed. The cops filed a report, but the confusion in their eyes matched the fear still churning inside Jeremy. When Jeremy emailed Uber and filed a complaint, the response came back: "We found no such trip in your log. Please make sure you use the official app." But what truly shook him was the auto-generated email that arrived days later. "Thank you for riding with us. Hope to see you again soon." From that day, Jeremy stopped using Uber altogether. He walked everywhere or only used trusted cabs. But the memory never left him. Some nights, while looking out his bedroom window, he'd spot the same black car across the street, engine off, headlights dead, but a faint face in the windshield, just watching him. And when he'd look again, it would vanish. That night in Seattle was cold and heavy. I'm Natasha, 32, a freelance illustrator. I just finished a late meeting with a client and was heading home. I called an Uber, and as the ride began, I found myself staring out the window. The route felt oddly familiar. Then I realized the driver was taking me through the neighborhood I lived in until I was 9. The old streets, the weathered mailboxes, the tall maple trees, everything looked familiar, but now felt distant, like memories I was never meant to revisit. As we entered one particular street, a strange chill crept up my spine, like something from my past had followed me back. We passed a house where my childhood best friend used to live. Her window was still lit by that same flickering porch light, one that seemed stuck in time, waiting years for something to change. The Uber driver was silent, an older man who seemed ordinary enough. We exchanged a few polite words. "How was your meeting? And traffic's been awful tonight." But mostly, he stayed quiet, and yet, his rearview mirror kept tilting toward me. It wasn't obvious, but it was like he was studying my face or something behind me. I couldn't see. 3. We had just passed an old bend when I suddenly heard a soft, innocent voice from the back seat say, "Mommy, are we going home?" My spine locked. I turned around fast. No one was there. The back seat was empty. No child, not even a shadow. For a moment, I convinced myself it was stress or exhaustion playing tricks on me, nostalgia blending with fatigue. But what terrified me more was that the driver didn't react at all. He just kept driving, like nothing had happened. My body started to shiver. The temperature inside the car dropped suddenly. Fog crept onto the windows. The heater, which had been on, was now off, and the controls weren't responding. I leaned forward to turn the dial, but it was dead. Then, after a long silence, the driver finally spoke. But his voice had changed. It was low, hollow, and almost sad. "You heard it too?" That line froze me. I looked at him. His eyes were still on the road, but his face was sunken, like he carried something unbearable. I asked quietly, "What do you mean?" He didn't respond. Just silence, like there was nothing left to say. As we neared my destination, we passed an old house, the one I grew up in. It was falling apart now, windows broken. But in one of those windows, still taped to the cracked glass, was a drawing I had made when I was maybe 7. A house, a sun, 2 people holding hands. My heart stopped. I whispered, "That's my old house." And the driver said something that took the breath out of my lungs. "I know." The car rolled to a stop right in front of it. I stared out the window. The house looked abandoned, but something in the dark was watching me. And then I saw her, standing beneath the broken window, a little girl. She looked exactly like me, same eyes, same face, same old 90s clothes I used to wear. She looked right at me and smiled, a soft, knowing smile, like she'd been waiting all these years for me to come back. The driver finally turned around and looked at me, really looked at me. There was a strange shine in his eyes, no fear, no confusion. Just a truth he seemed to have known all along. And then he said the words that would haunt me forever. "She's been waiting." The car had stopped, but my heart hadn't. I opened the door slowly and stepped outside. Cold air hit my face like a silent warning, deepening the quiet that wrapped around me like a memory I couldn't escape. The street was still and empty, but something about the house in front of me felt different, like the ground itself was holding memories I had long buried. The little girl I'd seen moments ago was no longer there, but in the fresh snow, I could see tiny barefoot footprints leading toward the house. My whole body trembled, but my feet began moving on their own. I looked back. The driver was still by the car, calm, as if he knew I had to go. There was no fear in his eyes, just tired acceptance, like this was something he'd seen before. I reached the front door. It was half open, like someone had been waiting for me to come back. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first, damp wood, old dust, and something familiar buried under it all. A scent you don't smell, but remember. Every corner of the house felt frozen in time. The same old paintings on the wall, the same magnets on the fridge. The calendar still stuck on 1998. My childhood drawings still taped to the walls, now faded and covered in dust. I slowly walked toward my old bedroom, the same room where I'd once built pillow forts and whispered to my imaginary friend late into the night. Just as I reached the door, I heard a voice. Soft, sad, innocent. Don't forget me. I stopped breathing. I pushed the door open. It was dark inside. No one was there. Just cold air. And an old teddy bear lying in the corner, covered in dust. The same teddy bear I used to give my friend to play with. A forgotten piece of childhood now standing in front of me like it never left. I ran back outside, heart pounding, and went straight to the driver. I asked, "Who are you?" He didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just said, "Someone who never left." Just like her. There was no fear in his voice, no regret, just a truth he wasn't hiding anymore. His words cut deep. Suddenly, my mind filled with memories I had long dismissed as make-believe. A little girl, my closest friend, who used to tell me she couldn't go home, who always wanted to play, to talk. And one day, I locked her in the basement storage room when she said she wanted to stay with me forever. I locked the door and never opened it again. I got back in the car shaking. Looked at my reflection in the mirror, but it wasn't my face, it was hers. The little girl, same eyes, same hair, same old dress I used to wear in the 90s. She was looking right at me, smiling. The question wasn't who am I anymore. It was, did I ever grow up at all? Or was this all just a loop of memories, mistakes, forgotten promises, and unfinished friendships? I sat there all night. In that car. In that neighborhood where every house seemed to hide a forgotten story. And when the morning came, neighbors noticed a strange Uber car parked in front of the old abandoned house. No one was inside. The engine was off. Doors never opened. But one neighbor swore that sometime in the early hours, he saw a little girl standing at the window, smiling for a long time, and then vanishing. So that was tonight's story. What started as a ride became a terrifying journey into memory and time. Sometimes, what we see isn't real. And the memories we think we left behind, they might still be waiting for us. If this story sent chills down your spine, or made you question what's hiding in your past, make sure to subscribe to Chilling Talks. We bring you real, disturbing horror stories every week, ones that follow you even into your dreams. Hit that bell icon, so next time something's watching you, you'll be ready. Stay alert, stay alive, and keep listening to Chilling Talks.